He was last seen on Tuesday entering Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul, seeking paperwork to marry his fiancée.
This closed-circuit camera footage is the last known sight of him. Khashoggi's fiancée, who waited on the sidewalk, says he never came back out.
Turkish officials say he was murdered, his body dismembered, and flown out of the country.
We are working to search for him, says the Consul General, and we are worried about his case.
But so far, the Saudi consulate hasn't turned over any CCTV footage that would prove Khashoggi left.
And then there's, of course, this case of these 15 Saudi nationals. They arrived the same day that Khashoggi went missing, were in the consulate at around the same time.
The allegation that they timed their visit with his to kill him. Once a royal court insider, Khashoggi's more recent writing in the Washington Post was critical of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, including the Saudi government's position on Canada.
So the environment in Saudi Arabia does not allow for constructive criticism or constructive debate and discourse.
Khashoggi had been living in self-imposed exile in Washington and Istanbul, and clearly concerned for his safety. Now, even Saudi Arabia's staunchest allies want some answers.
We're demanding everything, and we want to see what's going on here. That's a bad situation.
The Washington Post says if he was killed in the consulate, it's a monstrous act. Fellow writer Jason Rezaian published a video on the Post's website demanding some accountability. He joins us from the Washington Post newsroom.
Jason, the facts as they are known so far in this investigation would suggest that the Saudi government sent more than a dozen people to kill Khashoggi. Why would they take such an extraordinary step, something that's become so public, to kill a journalist?
It's a great question. And I think that at this moment when the Saudi regime is trying to present itself as in the process of reform and becoming more progressive, such an act would undercut that sort of perception in the world. But, you know, as Jamal was rightly pointing out, this is a system, this is a monarchy that simply does not seem to be able to accept any sort of criticism.
This has taken place, we believe, in the Saudi consulate in Turkey, Turkey leading the investigation. But Turkey's President Erdogan is no friend to journalists. He's jailed hundreds of them. How confident are you that a real investigation is going to take place?
Well, I hope that the United States and the rest of the world community, you know, led by requests from the United States, gets more involved in this, because I do agree with you that Turkey is sort of suspect when it comes to press freedoms and carrying out investigations. And obviously there are issues between the Turkish government and the Saudi government as well that may come into play. So, you know, I think there's still so many questions, and the reports from both the Saudi government and the Turkish government are so different that it's hard to know what to put any stock into.
You, of course, have a unique connection to what we are learning about Jamal Khashoggi. When you were the bureau chief in Tehran, you were arrested, held in prison for over a year. How resonant is this experience with what you went through?
Well, I think that they're similar in the sense that we're both journalists working in a region and on a region that is very contentious and has security issues, but doing so in a really transparent way. In my case, I was taken captive, you know, in what seems as you know, a search for leverage. In Jamal's case, it seems much more about silencing Jamal and other critics of that regime, and I think that that's going to have a chilling effect on journalists and critics all over the world.
How do we fight that? How do we fight that chilling effect?
Well, I think, you know, as you rightfully pointed out, you know, comment and demands for justice and investigation from the leading nations of the world, the United States, the European Union, and others helps. But unfortunately, as we've seen over the past couple of years, there's a growing trend towards attacks on journalists, the killing of journalists, the dehumanizing of journalists, and, you know, that's been led in some part by the President of the United States when he talks about us as the enemy of the people. And it sort of gives cover to the worst actors, authoritarian leaders who may expect that there's not going to be any ramification for doing something like this. And I hope they're wrong.
Jason, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.